about an hour or thereabouts. So there's one big bill that's going to take some time, the Empower Bill, CT Wilson's Bill 1035, but let's take about 15 minutes and try to get through some of this other stuff, and then we'll then spend the remainder of the time on that piece of legislation. So and then we have a concurrence. Let's take up on one of the governor's bill. We want to take care of that quickly. So Stacy.
Senate Bill 551, Department of Service and Civic Innovation and Maryland Corps Program Service Year Option Pathways established. This is the SERV Act. I think everyone in the committee is familiar with this. The House amendments, what they did is the Senate version didn't account that there was already an existing fund, the Maryland Corps Fund. So that would have made 3 funds for one program. So they repeal that Maryland Corps Fund and retain the Young Adult Pathway and Maryland Service Year Pathways Fund. It requires any extra unused funds, not donated funds or federal funds, to begin reverting to the general fund in fiscal year 2027. And it requires the comptroller to account for each fund separately. The motion is to concur.
Okay, we have a motion to concur. Your second, Senator Augustine. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to concur, raise your hand. All opposed? Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Okay, let's go through this list. Several of these bills, we've passed the Senate versions already. So I don't know if there'll be that much discussion. I don't know if there's any differences. Let's start with the paint stewardship bill from Delegate Boyce, House Bill 255.
Right, House Bill 255, Maryland Paint Stewardship. This bill requires a producer of architectural paint sold at retail in the state or a representative organization acting on behalf of the producer to submit by July 1st, 2024, a plan for the establishment of a paint stewardship program to the Maryland Department of the Environment for approval. This is the cross file of Senate Bill 260. There are amendments in your bill packet. If you look starting on page 2, these amendments would conform the bill to Senate Bill 260 as it passed the Senate. So these were Senator Hester's amendments, altering reporting requirements and adding language requiring the Department of the Environment to conduct a review of the program in 2027, as well as specifying that they should only approve the program if the department finds that the program demonstrates a net benefit compared to the collection programs available to consumers in 2022.
Okay, so again, these amendments just conform the bill to what we passed. 8-3 was the vote on the West bill. So is there a motion to move those amendments? Senator Hester, Senator Kagan, second. All in favor of those amendments? Make it look like the cross file. Raise your hand. Okay, the carry. So we now have motion on the table. Or we need a motion favorable from Senator Kagan. Senator Hester, second.
Can I
okay, again, this was an 8-3 vote the first time around.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So with those amendments, will this program go into place first, or will they have to say it's a net benefit before it can go into place?
They can only approve it if they find that it is a net benefit for the consumers. So they have to approve it before it goes into place.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. Okay, again, this was 8-3 the first time on the cross file, just to remind everybody. Okay, all in favor of the motion on House Bill 255 as amended, raise your hand. Okay, all opposed. Okay, that bill carries 8-3 again. Next up, Delegate Stein, House Bill 319. This is a cross file of Senate Bill 158, which passed unanimously the first that particular bill. So back to you, April.
Correct. So yes, this is House Bill 319 is identical to Senate Bill 158 as unanimously passed by the Senate. Bill requires the Maryland Department of Agriculture in consultation with the Department of the Environment and the Department of Health and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to study the use of PFAS and pesticides in the state.
Okay, so this is the same posture.
Same, exactly.
Okay, this bill passed unanimously. Again, the cross file. Is there a motion from Senator Lewis Young? Is there a second? Senator Brooks. Okay, any discussion on House Bill 319? Seeing none. All in favor, House Bill 319, raise your hand. All opposed. Okay, the motion carries unanimously. On 319, let's just go through these two other the Senate bills we've already dealt with. House Bill 723, cross-file 526, which passed unanimously out of the committee previously. So, April.
House Bill 723, Natural Resources, Forest Preservation and Retention. This bill is identical to Senate Bill 526 as unanimously passed by the Senate. Bill modifies state law relating to forest preservation and retention.
Okay, motion favorable from Senator Kagan, Senator Augustine second. All in favor of House Bill 723, raise your hand. All opposed, bill carries unanimously. Let's go down one more that passed unanimously, the cross-file, House Bill 1115, Delegate Adams. It's cross-file 831, which passed, I think, unanimously.
Sure. Yeah, House Bill 1115, Libraries, Regional Resource Centers, Governance Requirements. This bill is identical to Senate Bill 831, the amendments to which the committee concurred with last Thursday. If you recall, it just alters the governance structure of the 3 public libraries designated as regional resource centers by establishing a governing board for each regional resource center.
Okay, is there a motion? Favorable motion, second. Second, Senator Carosa, any discussion? Again, this bill passed unanimously, cross-file. All in favor, House Bill 1115. All opposed, bill carries unanimously. April, let's knock these two Montgomery, Prince George delegation bills. Let's try to get them off the table here. Okay.
All right, so these bills were just released to us from rules last Friday, but they have been reviewed and considered by both their delegations. So these are both Montgomery County and Prince George's County delegation bills. House Bill 872, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, service near regional transit districts and neighborhood centers in Prince George's County contracts. This bill is an emergency bill authorizing the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission to contract with the District of Columbia or the District of Columbia Water and Sewer Authority for the construction, maintenance, and operation of a water supply, sewer, or drainage system by authorizing the District of Columbia or the District of Columbia's Water and Sewer Authority to provide water service, sewer service, or water and sewer service to a border property in Prince George's County as specified. Bill applies only prospectively to future water and sewer connections and terminates 5 years from the date it is enacted. We do have delegation letters from both of the Senate delegations on this bill.
Is there a motion, Senator Kagan? Motion, second. Okay, and we'll just second from Senator Augustine. To you, Senator Simon, questions?
Yes. Do we have a public hearing on these?
Candidly, we did not.
And
Yeah.
I am not against
Yeah.
the bill at all. I'm just
Right.
process wise.
Right.
I don't
Well,
really
we could have,
recall.
Senator, honestly, Senator Kagan was going to explain the bills and that would constitute the hearing. Do you, fair enough, everything that she said, I think that could constitute as a bill hearing,
No.
but if that's an issue, we could come
And
back
again, it's just a
after.
process. I mean,
Sure.
Senator Kagan explaining the bill is one thing, but availing the public to weigh in is another.
We had local, hearings on both these, both in Prince George's, Montgomery. I guess the difference here is with these local bills. I mean, we had a hearing of sorts in both our respective delegations. So I guess that's how I would view it, a little bit different in terms of the public in Montgomery and Prince George's.
And I'm not against the
Yeah.
bill at all. I'm just
I
process.
would
wise.
normally, yes, I think as a general rule, we would, irrespective of the delegations, but if anybody has some issue, we can certainly hold on the vote and when we come back here, we can get somebody from the delegation to explain what April just explained, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point, and I think we ought to be consistent. I
Okay.
actually agree. We've got the time.
Sure.
So I'd like to suggest that we come back and ask someone from our intergovernmental team to come here, explain it,
Okay.
and take any questions.
I think that's legit. Yeah.
They're not amended, are they?
I
No.
don't think so.
No.
I think, and they passed unanimously in the House delegation, Senate delegation, I think on both sides.
No,
No, I
it's
think
fine.
it's, and Senator,
think so long as I understand like exactly when, this is an important bill
Yeah.
to our folks, exactly when, this is going to happen.
Well, I would say that immediately after the first session, when we're going to come back here, okay, because I think there's a good likelihood we may not finish up on this
Okay.
1035. And at that time, we'll have somebody present these two
The two
bills
bills.
and we'll
Okay,
do-
cool.
so-
I'm writing to Mel.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So immediately after session, prepare to come back here for some continuation of this and the two by county. Okay?
I will just note, we do not have a local, we're missing a local level in 873, and I understand that the Prince George's County delegation does not support it.
Okay, well then, let's flush that out. I'm glad you, I was not aware of that. So, okay, well, 873 maybe in a slightly different posture than 872. Yeah. Okay, at a bare minimum, we'll have an 872 hearing and we'll discuss 873. So everybody got that? Okay. Now let's go back to some of the couple of other bills before we get to 1035. Let's House Bill 416, we're at second on JPR. So JPR is waiting for us to take action on 416. Delegate Ampry. And Stacey, why don't you explain 416?
Sure. House Bill 416, Resources and Education for All Prisons, the REAP Act. This bill requires the Maryland Department of Labor to, one, set goals for the number of inmates in education programs, two, establish a tracking system for the number of inmates in education programs, three, establish a tracking system for the progress of inmates in education programs as specified, and four, adopt regulations to carry out these provisions. The Maryland Higher Education Commission and the Department of Human Services must assist the Department of Labor in creating the required tracking systems. The bill specifies that the governor must provide funding annually in the budget bill for the Department of Labor to use for marketing for education programs to inmates and for the required tracking systems. The Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services must assist inmates in accessing federal Pell Grants for higher education and adopt regulations to carry out these provisions. There is a reprint in your packet on page 4. So there were some amendments offered by the JPR to this bill. First, it would limit the bill to inmates at state correctional facilities. It creates the Prison Education Reform Commission to recommend a set of policies related to education in correctional facilities, and they must report to the governor and the General Assembly by June 1, 2024. And it provides that the effective date of the provisions related to the tracking system is July 1, 23, and terminates the commission on June 30th, 2025.
Okay, Sarah Kagan.
Old light.
Questions for Stacey on this particular bill, House Bill 416? These are the JPR amendments.
I have a
Again,
question.
second. Yes, Sarah Corzo.
So, I think I must have missed the hearing on this bill.
We didn't, we're second. This
Oh,
was
we're
it's a
second.
JPR. So we
I
wasn't
guess, I know there's a lot of education programs already for our incarcerated individuals, so I'm trying to understand if this is layering on, if this is a new program.
It would be a new program. I think it's education programs in correctional facilities are a bit scattered. And so I think this is an attempt to try and bring some cohesion to those programs to find out what types of program that inmates are signing up for to help them access certain federal assistance, financial assistance to participate in higher education institutions. I mean, that's as much as I know about it, but.
Sarah Washington.
Thank you. Also, Senator Crozo, there's also been the issue of when inmates take courses while they're incarcerated, how are they accepted into the state systems, making sure that there's universal acceptance across our community colleges and all of our colleges. So there's a lot of, issues around there. And as council said, that it's sort of scattered. I believe they want to make sure that what they're training for is really consistent to the jobs that are being offered. So it's the desire is not layering on, it's actually to pull together and synthesize. That would be how I would read it.
Okay, Sarah Corzo.
I'm going through the bill file, and normally on issues like this, I would be touching base with the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services, since I have ECI in my district. And then I also see in the bill file, there's a letter of information from the Department of Labor. So, just trying to kind of assess where they're weighing in and if there is.
Okay, why don't we do this? Because again, we're under a little tight timeline. Why don't we, yeah. Okay,
This is an
okay.
important piece of legislation.
Yeah, and we're second, and JPR wants to get this to, so Senator Carosa, these, at this point, these are legitimate issues you're raising. And if it's, if you're not comfortable, obviously you can go no and raise these issues on the floor. Again, I'd be a little different if we were primary, but since we're second, I feel like we need the courtesy to give JPR a response up or down, one way or the other, and they'll defend it on the floor. Yeah.
Position we're in, but
Yeah.
there's enough in the file that would
understand.
raise questions.
And there'll be, JPR will defend it on the bill and you can definitely press them. Okay. So we have a motion on we're talking about the amendments at this point. A motion to move the JPR amendments, second. Okay. Yes.
Process.
Sure.
question. So we're second on the bill. So someone from this committee was in the hearing, I guess.
Yes. I don't know. I don't
Okay,
recall
and-
who.
Why are we having a committee vote on it first, though, if we're second?
Well, because they've already voted it. And
So I didn't see it on
they
the
can't
floor
take it to
system.
the floor unless, as the
Okay.
second committee, we have to vote it as well. In order for them to take it, report it to the floor. That's
Okay,
how
I
it
just
works.
didn't,
It's not joint, we're the second.
I
Both
didn't
committees
s-
have to vote it out.
okay, I just didn't see there in the, where you view the unofficial roll calls, it's not on there. So I
Do we
just
have a roll?
count on their
from
committee
JPR?
vote.
Yes, it was unanimous.
Okay, so it was a unanimous vote in JPR. So, okay, so we have a motion and a second on the amendments. Again, all in favor of the JPR amendments, raise your hand. Okay, all opposed. Okay, we've got a bill, motion carries. We've now got is there a motion to move the bill as amended? Senator Washington, Senator Augustine, second. Sure, let's do a roll call on this one. And again, we're on House Bill 416 from JPR. Roll call.
Senator Kagan?
Hi.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine? Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion?
No.
Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson? Senator Watson, yes. Senator Lewis Young?
Yes.
Senator Lewis Young, yes. Senator Brooks?
Yes.
Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carosa? Senator Carosa, no. Senator Hester? Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington?
Yes, just to explain my. But this bill is about accessing federal funds to pay for college education. And therefore this is important. So I vote yes.
Senator Simonier? Senator Simonier, no. Senator Feldman?
Yes, bill carries 8-3. One final bill before we go to 1035 is Delegate Jackson, who I see here on 914. And where is Alexis? We get Alexis real quick here. We're going to need Alexis for the next one too, so. Okay. And I think this was one I think we may have, started a conversation on 914 last voting session dealing with venue and petitions from PSC decisions. And I think you probably all heard from both sides of this one, the PSC as well as the other side. So either way, we need to, and again, if we end up taking too much time in discussion, we'll roll it over to the next, when we come back after session.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Was there a motion made and we're continuing discussion
Don't, I
914?
don't,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
so
think- I don't-
move Favorable for the purpose of starting the discussion.
okay, sure, that's fine. Okay, so there's a motion and second. Once we get Alexis in here. An awkward silence. Alexis, we're not yet to 1035. We're gonna just refresh everybody's memory about 914. And then we take that up. And then we'll go to 1035, which may have to be continued after session as well, I think. But 914 is what we're on, Alexis.
All right. House Bill 914, Public Service Commission Judicial Review Proceedings. This bill specifies that a proceeding for review of a order from the Public Service Commission may be instituted in either Baltimore City or in a county where the public service company that was a party provides service instead of where the public service company involved operates.
Okay, everybody remember this issue? Okay, we did have a motion, a discussion. Senator Augustine.
Thank you. The Public Service Commission has responsibility for electricity, telecommunications, gas, water, transportation. Alexis, is it true that everybody else who the Public Service Commission, which is a governmental entity, when they get cases and they have to go to court, do they all have to go to Baltimore under the current law?
Yes, Baltimore is always an option that's unchanged by the bill.
Okay, I'm not talking about I'm talking about for the other entities, like everybody else, telecommunications, gas, water, transportation. Everybody else is under that framework except for the public utilities. That was a carve out for the public utilities because of their wires and stuff like that, but that it really did not contemplate the new sort of retail supplier situation.
That's right.
Which is different, which is really also kind of more akin to these other entities which are the spaces of the telecommunications, gas, water, and transportation. Is that the case?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And colleagues, also, I would just say to you, I would ask you, there's a website that's got the retail suppliers that are in there. If you look at that list, 95% of them are out of state folks who are just, you know, they're not domiciled here. They're from somewhere else. And that's what this is about. They're just they're just shopping as best they can. I think that this bill actually makes sense. It puts it in line with everybody else, including if the if the Attorney General brings a case, our other state cases, it aligns it with that. That's why I'm supportive of this bill, and I hope that you all will support it too. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Hester.
Thank you. I just had, we spent most of our time talking about the retail energy choice, and I just wanted to ask a question about other applicants like solar, wind, and geothermal. Is where they, go to court affected in this bill?
So it could be if there's a retail supplier within that solar geothermal carve out, they would be incorporated within it. And if they're a utility company that is involved in solar and geothermal as well, they would have that option or essentially that limitation to be in the county where they operate.
Oh.
So they would be included as well.
Okay, I see several people in the audience shaking their head vigorously. What's that? What?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to understand, like, if we do like a solar project in Howard County, like, does that then not go, are they able to appeal in Howard County, or do they go to Baltimore City?
It would depend on who the project is through. So if we're talking about a company, if we're talking about a supplier, I think that would be the distinction that is being explained here.
Here, yes, Senator Washington.
So I think just to make it clear, we're brushing over that. So your traditional utilities. And again, our utilities have a special status, right? You said there's the choice between, they choose where the venue can be either where they're housed, I'm not sure, or Baltimore City, right? It could be
Right.
either one of those.
That's
Okay,
right.
so everybody, or, either
Yeah.
or, so they have two choices. Okay. So this arrangement again was contemplated, colleagues, with the idea that there is a physical, and a supplier, a utility company that services a region. Now we have to accommodate, as we have with, Uber and Airbnb and all these other, new ways of providing. We have to contemplate and regulate, third-party energy suppliers that are not, our main companies. And so they, as the senator said, are not necessarily located in Maryland, and therefore have been able to bring their cases wherever. And so we're saying that if you are part of the utility framework, you should operate under the existing utility framework, and that is not allowing for venue shopping. And so that's why I support. And in some ways only applies if you set up, if the supplier or if the company is being sued or has done something wrong and they're going to court, but it doesn't have anything to do with placing them or citing them or anything.
Okay, Sarah Washington.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I just want to get to this other bill.
I get through it real
Yeah.
quick. So
Yeah.
just to answer Senator Hester, your question, it would then be a public utility company and they would be able to in the place where they are. So they would be able to do it in Howard County. It's just that simple. All righty? All right.
Okay, any other yes, Senator Gallion.
So I just wanted to follow up on Senator Washington. So you said there'd be a choice between Baltimore City and another, they could go to Baltimore City or another place where they're served. Who makes that choice between whether they're in Baltimore City or the other place?
The
I
petitioner.
think the actual, company would do that.
This is a petition for challenging a PSC decision. So
petitioner would?
the petitioner, in accordance with the law, would make that determination. And this is altering that framework, but it'd be up to the petitioner. Whoever's checking
So as of
Yeah.
right now, it could be pretty much anywhere. This would limit it to one of two places. Now,
Correct.
does this create some sort of statutory privilege for PSC?
I think they would
I mean,
argue,
what other areas could, if someone was aggrieved, they could only have a choice between two like that? Is that?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
I already told you, everything else that they have is set up this way. The reality is that this is a loophole that's been being exploited by these folks. Everybody else, Uber drivers, water companies, gas, telecommunications, under that existing framework where they function in Baltimore. These are the only ones who are going on wherever. That's the way that's what this is trying to do. This is trying to get everybody actually in the same posture.
Okay, Senator Carrozza, and if there's too many questions, we're just gonna roll this into post session. This will be the first bill we
Yeah,
vote on.
I
But
think there are multiple questions in that from day one on this bill, there have been multiple interpretations of this. And I'm obviously concerned about the town of Ocean City's options. And as I understand it, that if this bill passes, that the town of Ocean City can only file in Baltimore City Circuit Court.
I don't think that would necessarily be the case. I think they would be able to make the choice between wherever that company is providing service. So within that distribution service territory for a business that operates in Ocean City or Baltimore City. So they would retain those options.
But you just said, there seems to be ambiguity of whether their only option is Baltimore.
repeating ourselves.
Well, where is it in statute or in writing? Because this, I mean, these interpretations have been coming up throughout the course of this whole bill consideration in all due respect.
Council. That's where you've gotten it from. So it is what it is. I would ask for a vote, Mr. Chair. We're at the end of time. Folks are where they are. Let's vote.
Okay, any further discussion? And then we're just gonna do a roll call on this one. I think that we're at that point where just got to go up or down. We had this bill, we started it, we held it, so people get more information. And so I think the second time around, I think we gotta sort of make a call. So we had, yeah, one quick question, and that's it. I'll do a roll call.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I'm hearing it saying you can do it where you are or Baltimore City. Then the case like Senator Croza, where the area may cover multiple counties, can they go in any of those different counties?
Mhm.
So it's multiple counties.
We had a hearing on the transmissions where multiple states were involved affecting Ocean City. So the interpretation that you're leaving the impression that Ocean City could do Baltimore and Worcester County, when my understanding is when it comes to those multiple
Okay.
suppliers from multiple states, that's where you are limiting them to Baltimore City, in which case it does affect Ocean City. So that's why the response we're getting on this is not clear. And I believe that we should hold it until we have a clear answer on this.
Okay, guys, I don't want, we are definitely coming back here first after session. I mean, who here doesn't know where they are in the bill? I really, honestly, if you know where you're going to be voting, then I kind of feel, Senator Carrozza, do you know where you're going to vote? You have no idea. You don't have enough information.
Sure.
Okay.
So I'll just, if I can point
Yeah.
to the bill, under subsection A, it is an or in line 18. So there is the option being retained. Baltimore City isn't the sole venue avenue with that or there. Any county or Baltimore City.
Right. I don't think it's that ambiguous. I think it's pretty straightforward. Okay, guys, I think this is one, if you don't have enough information, you can obviously go no. Let's just do a roll call. and
All right,
move
Senator
on.
Kagan.
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine. Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson. Senator Watson, no. Senator Lewis Young.
Yeah.
Senator Lewis Young, yes. Senator Brooks. Senator Brooks, no. Senator Carrozza. Senator Carrozza, no. Senator Hester. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Simonaire. Oh, I'm sorry. Senator what? I got it. I have it. Senator Washington. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simonaire. Senator Simonaire, no. And Senator Feldman.
Okay, aye. That bill carries 6-5. Okay.
Oof.
Alexis, let's go to 1035. Everybody, you've got
Right.
this decision sheet here. And we're gonna just go through. I think we're not gonna get through this by 10:55, but immediately when we come back, that we will continue this conversation. This is a big bill. I just highlight, it's here today because the House didn't send it to us till Thursday or Friday, number one. And we are where we are, and we just need to deal with it as best we can. Okay, Alexis, why don't
All
you
right.
start with the document and we'll just go through each issue.
Okay, now I wasn't clear about if everybody had the AG's opinion on their desk. Is that, okay, I do see it in this.
Yeah, there's
packet,
one
okay.
legal issue that's
Okay.
popped up in.
So it's in the packet on page 9. Then the actual thicker packet and the chart should be on each of your desks. So essentially this bill modifies the Empower Energy Efficiency Program that has plans submitted to the Public Service Commission for approval for energy efficiency and confirmation. This essentially is changing those targets into greenhouse gas reductions targets, and as amended in the House, adding gas companies within the purview. It also broadly incorporates low income targets from the Department of Housing and Community Development that we interrogated through Senate Bill 144 and House Bill 169, which we voted just last week, at least the House version. So the bill as drafted will start there. There are a couple of issues. So we have a surcharge issue, an amortization issue, target issue, DHCD specific programs, energy conservation, gas companies, supplantation of funds, behind the meter, demand response, green and healthy task force, and a contingency of the two bills that I mentioned, Senate Bill 144 and House Bill 169. So as drafted, the bill allowed utility companies to recover on their Empower costs through a surcharge or through a base rate. As amended, the cost recovery for programs have to come through a surcharge instead of being included in base rates, with the exception of non-behind the meter programs, which we will get to. But the majority of programs and services has to be included in a surcharge. Amortization, as drafted, was not an issue, but it was codified in the House version, and they allow a utility company to pay off their unamortized Empower balance in the form of a surcharge line item through December 31st, 2031. So that is when full recovery on that amount should take place, and when adding it into a surcharge has to end. It has to be recovered by that time. House amendments also place a cap on the return of their, on the unamortized balances that a utilities company carry as of December 31st, 2023, or before January 1, 2027. So this is where the OAG's opinion comes into play on line 9. So this is capped in the amendment specifically at the amount of the utility company's average cost of outstanding debt. This raises a concern for several electric companies, constitutional issue of a takings. So there is an OAG opinion letter, which, having reviewed it kind of generally and broadly, having gotten it a little earlier today, it sounds like the language that was suggested by the Attorney General is a language that's within our House amendments, because it's narrow to the cap on utility recovery is narrow to a return on their quote average cost of their outstanding debt. So it appears that that issue has also been addressed, but I'm sure the utility companies may have a different perspective on this issue.
Here, I think how we're going to handle this, because again, this lays out, we're going to go through this. We're going to come back, but let's get all the issues out on the table, and instead of just trying to take votes individually, because I think this, I'm already getting some text. People want to assess this a little bit, this document, and kind of get some more information or some clarity. Okay, so this is about this amortization, topic, where right now the way it works is, the utilities basically front the money and essentially serve as a bank, and then they are able to recover that money over time, spread out currently under a 5-year amortization schedule. But that, because of that, it's helped ratepayers smooth out things, but we've had an accumulation of debt over time that's over $800 some million at this point. And so the issue that's come up, in the Public Service Commission stepped in with an order in December to change that cost recovery mechanism that's in place, that has been in place since the beginning of Empower. So this is about that. The House, so the PSC order says we got to get rid of that whole debt by 2029, and they have kind of addressed that. This bill extends the amortization schedule and the pay back and eliminate till 2031, in part to again, not have immediate impact on ratepayers. The numbers will be slightly less severe than if it's 2029 schedule. And so there's several issues here that are another issue is addressed by the Attorney General's opinion, which is what kind of rate of return can the utilities get as they're holding this money. That is also, again, the topic. So there's a couple of issues here, legal issues, but it's ultimately about paying down off this debt by some period of time. At some point, this amortization concept will go away, and the utilities will have to expense it and pay it on an annual rolling basis, get the recovery back in a current form. But this mechanism, again, is a big part of the bill, one of the big issues. So I know that's a lot I'm throwing out here, and Alexis can weigh in, but yes.
One question on that. sounded like it's going from rates to surcharge, and I'm just trying to understand that. Is that basically that it's a line item on the bill
Right.
versus just everybody absorbs it? Is that the
Right,
concept?
instead of it being kind of massed within a rate, you'll see how much each individual is charged on their
Okay.
bills through a
Okay, just
surcharge.
to understand.
It's a partly a transparency argument you get to see. Yeah. Yeah.
It's right now though, too.
Right.
You know how you see on your bill, you see the Empower charge? Yeah, that's it. And then it would stay that way instead of being put into the rest of your bill.
The 5 years, would that go away as a surcharge?
That we have in place to help with reducing greenhouse gas. That's the program.
So the 5 years would pay back the utility.
Well, currently, yeah,
after 5
currently
years.
there's been a 5-year amortization arrangement. So the utilities pay, make these investments. And then since the beginning, there's been this, they don't go and get the money back immediately. It's spread out over 5 years. That's been the current arrangement and situation. The PSC, and then, so.
I guess my
Yeah.
question is, why would the ratepayer continue to pay if that 5 years has been paid back?
Right.
But then they decided to stop doing that. So now we're on a pay as you go for these programs, but we got to kind of catch up on where we weren't pay as you go.
Let me just say there was $2 currently in the surcharge and
Yep.
$2 paying back over 5 years. So then they're done paying that $2 back, but this is going to put all $4 in the surcharge and continue that $4 forever.
No, once that $2 is paid off, then you just got the 2.
Okay, so it will not continue.
Right. We're going to pay off the amount that's owed.
Okay,
We got to pay it off.
okay, I misunderstood.
But then there's the program itself,
Yep, that makes
which
sense.
is separate.
Yeah,
But then
that
now the program is pay as you go.
Okay.
Right, sort of, right. So if the bottom line is this is accumulated over time where, in terms of, again, that's why this is ballooned to a debt that our ratepayers actually owe, but how that's paid back has been the subject of PSC orders and all the like. The other thing, just for sort of background, Empower's under 3-year cycles. So 2021 to 23 is the current cycle, but starting in 2024 to 2027, we start a new 3-year cycle. So that's one of the reasons the discussion about making some changes on the amortization schedules and what's in the surcharge and how quickly this $800 million debt gets paid off. That's one of the reasons why this is a hot topic. And then secondly, originally Empower was very much about energy consumption savings. Now, over the last couple of years, there's been a decision, I think, within this General Assembly that we're transitioning to decarbonization and greenhouse gas emissions as a more important sort of priority policy wise. And therefore, some of the lingo about energy savings and moving to greenhouse gas emissions is, another part of an adjustment to the way Empower works and what are the priorities. And so we're kind of in this transition period between the old Empower and potentially a new Empower. So that's another reason why we're debating and having this discussion this year. So in anticipation of the new 3-year cycle. Senator, yeah, that's why everybody has to understand this. Senator Carrozza and then Senator Brooks.
So I'm finding this extremely complex, and I know it's a new for many of us on this committee. It looks like from what I'm reviewing of the bill that where we're getting hung up is the cost recovery language, and that during the interim, when the Empower bill was being worked on, that this wasn't a key focus during the bill discussions. And now it looks like we have House amendments that the utilities, I'm not sure if they've been able to review them or not. And my understanding is they also might have some amendments for consideration.
Okay, the utilities are very aware of these amendments because again, but I think yes, okay, we'll, when we come back here after session, maybe we'll have some back and forth. We've got the Office of People's Counsel here. We've got the Public Service Commission here. And we've got some other folks here. So we may actually, take advantage of that. Senator Brooks?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, just want to make sure I understand what we're saying here. So the costs that we incurred for Empower, say for instance, 2017. And then we've got 5 years to amortize that loan, to pay that loan off.
That's the way it's been.
Yes, yeah. So then in 2018, then we would have until under the current, we would have until 2023 amortized over 5 years to pay that off. Is this like a rolling mortgage?
That's why it's ballooned to 800 some million dollars over time, because we haven't been doing pay as you go. There's been this unamortized amount that has grown, and that's one of the things we're trying to tackle here. But you can't do it all at once. It would be forcing our ratepayers to pay everything back. That would be a massive hit on that surcharge amount. And so over time, we've been trying to keep it, smooth it out. And now we're sort of revisiting it. The PSC revisited it and came up with a whole new methodology in December of 2022, how to deal with this unamortized debt and the like. And so we're here to maybe smooth it out even a little bit, potentially more than what the PSC did, but Senator Augustine will be next. Yeah.
Okay, if I could ask the second question, then
Sure.
Is it possible, right now, I guess we're paying it on a monthly basis from the billing. What if we were to pay it bi-weekly? Then you could cut those costs tremendously, because your amortization, you're paying on a declining principal balance. And if you do it bi-weekly, then you're cutting that cost substantially.
Okay, when we come back after session, we're probably gonna have to bring up PSC or some other folks to, maybe assist the committee here. Yes, Senator Augustine.
But
Yeah.
Senator Brooks, that would require the utilities to bill us twice a month, because remember, this is tied into our utility bills. I don't know if we can really do that, but because that's what it's tied into.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe we can be creative and think about doing it, well, we could talk about it, but then again, if we're talking about mitigating costs to ratepayers or cutting that interest, that would be an ideal way of doing it.
And maybe another useful point on context is that this extends the order. So in the order, the hard stop was 2029. So this just adds an extra 2 years for what it's worth in terms of useful context, giving a little bit of extra time.
Okay, and then just put it on the table. A second issue that there was a floor amendment on the House dealing with the rate of return that the utilities can get on this money, and the House amendment on the floor modified downward. I think generally speaking, it's been 8 or 9% return. This would statutorily take it down to 4%. The utilities say that's an unconstitutional taking and other legal arguments. We do have the Attorney General's opinion that you have in front of you that does not agree with that. So there's really two parts of this. It's the amortization schedule. PSC has made this now to 2029 and some other adjustments we can talk about later. Under the bill, the amortization, the unamortized balance needs to be paid off by 2031. And then the second part of this whole cost recovery is the rate of return. There's a legal issue that, again, the Attorney General and the utilities clearly have a different opinion. So the Attorney General's office does opine here that they came up with some language that's incorporated in the reprint. Again, I think the utilities have a different legal argument that's unconstitutional by doing that. So, okay, so that's that one issue. We got maybe a few more minutes left. Why don't we just go down to one more issue? We're just going to have to continue this when we come back. I mean, honestly, it's an important bill. Unfortunately, we got this very late, but that's can't change that. What about Alexis? You want to go one more here? Why don't we do this? We're on the Ross, we're on still at 11. Okay, guys, let's just table all this. What I want you to do, though, is go through this chart that lays out all the various issues, amendments. And then we'll take this up post session immediately, okay? Yeah, Senator Kagan wants to make one point.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This will serve as the public announcement update that House Bills 872 and 873 by county legislation will be handled by Prince George's, and the senators have been notified, and I assume that their intergovernmental folks or someone will be here to present, or the senators themselves will present those bills at our break. So you'll present whatever you want to present. Anyway, this is the public announcement. It will be a hearing.
If nobody shows up for that second one, that will still be constitute a hearing.